Vicki. Say hi to the people.
Hello, listening audience.
Yes, Vicki is here. So Vicki, go ahead and introduce yourself and, just tell us where to find all your stuff, all your information, your websites, your book, the whole nine.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on again. It's been too long. I've been like, man, I missed you guys. So thanks for having me back. You can find me at VickiJoyAnderson.com. You can get a hold of me there. You can see where I'm going to be. I've got like 3 or 4 more conferences this year. So if you're anywhere in the Ohio, Kentucky, or Branson area, you can come and meet me in person. You can find me on Instagram, Vicki Joy Author, and I am now on YouTube as of 1 month ago. So trying to get content up there. Right now it's mostly shorts, but that is going to change in the very near future.
Amazing. And I know how you feel about that YouTube thing. We're probably both really late on it. But yeah. It's okay. We'll catch up with everybody else. And everybody that got ahead of us, you're just an example to help us lead, follow through. You know what I mean? So
absolutely. Better late than never.
Yes. So
we'll get there.
Yeah. We it's not a win, it's a win, not if. But with that being said, let's talk about a little bit about the subjects we're going to be talking about. And to more detail, we're going to be talking about just the whole spectrum of the human body, especially diet. We want to talk about diet because I don't think, most people that listen to this show and probably listen to Vicki already have an idea of how important it is what you put in your body. And it has a big importance. Everything you put, as they say, you are what you eat. Let's use that old school phrase. You are what you eat. And that has truth to it. I mean, when you eat certain foods, your breath smells like that. Everything that comes out of you smells like that. So that's just an example of for example, if you eat asparagus, your pee is going to smell really bad. And, but I'm not trying to, I guess I'm being funny, but I'm also being dead serious. You are what you eat. So we're going to be talking about diet. We're going to be talking about how it affects the body. We're going to be talking about what's in the food that affects the body. We're going to be talking about fasting. And many other things. If I'm missing anything, Vicki, go ahead and let the audience know some many details before we start opening up.
Yeah. So I just want to say, I'm not a fortune teller, but I'm just going to tell you, I kind of know where this conversation is probably going to go. And if you heard the word health and fasting and you're like boring and you're ready to flip this off, this is going to be like something you've never heard before. We're taking this to the next level. The reason I want to talk about this is because I'm sick of all the boring, stupid stuff we're reading online. So much of the stuff that we are reading is steering us in the wrong direction. And, for people familiar with my ministry or who have read the book, They Only Come Out at Night, which is my book on sleep paralysis, I have an entire chapter on the Asclepians, which were the healing temples of the 1st and 2nd century, where a lot of our current medical knowledge is rooted in. Galen, the super surgeon of the 2nd century, this guy, Galen, worshipped the god Asclepius, who was the son of Apollo and a mortal woman. So you all know what that makes him, a demigod. It makes him a Nephilim. He had a watcher father and a human mother, and he was the serpent god of healing. And Galen was a worshiper of Asclepius, and they called it dreaming a cure. They were, in essence, sedating themselves on psychedelics of some kind, and they were astral projecting, and they were communicating with the spirit realm as to how to get cures for diseases. Because if you get cures for diseases, you get power and you get money. And the Asclepians were really the big pharma of the 1st and 2nd century. And everything I shouldn't say everything, I maybe need to take it back a little bit there. That was the foundation of our current medical system. Now, I'm not dogging on every person out there, every good-hearted person who went into medicine and who went into nursing because they love people and they have a bedside manner. For those who have heard my story before, I spent the first 15 years of my life in hospitals getting reconstructive surgery. Those doctors saved my life. I had nurses that were so kind to me. I owe a massive debt of gratitude to those people. So we're not villainizing or demonizing every single person out there, your family doctor, your pediatrician. But what we're trying to get people to understand is that our current medical system, which bears the symbol of Asclepius, the serpent god of healing, this demigod, which is a rod with a serpent going up a bit, going up the pole, what we see on all of our emergency vehicles and things, that there is a continual link between the past and the present. And they're just like in the days of old, where they kept people ignorant about their bodies, the bodies that God created, this miraculously incredible immune system he gave us. Our bodies were designed to stay healthy and to heal itself. And we've lost that knowledge, primarily because not only has the knowledge been kept from us, the deplorables, but it's being kept by a lot of genuinely good, kind-hearted people who go into medical school because they're simply not taught this stuff anymore. So hang on to your hats, guys. We're going to be talking about health and immune systems and gut health and fasting and some of these things that might be boring. They might not seem fringe to you, but I guarantee you we're going to take this in a little bit of a different direction. And this is going to be some fringe. And I believe that if you take the information that we're going to be giving in this podcast to prayer, and you prayerfully bring this before the throne of God, there are things that you're going to get healed of that your doctors are saying are incurable, because God designed the body to heal itself. And some of this missing arcane knowledge, we're going to bring it up tonight.
Amen to that. That's a very good way to put it out there, because most people do get even me, when I start seeing these, random videos pop up, oh, we're going to talk about don't eat meat, don't eat vegetables. It's always this war between meat and vegetables, and it's just boring. It's the same thing. This side needs to stop eating meat. This side needs to stop eating vegetables. But, it's kind of silly when you think about it. It's like a third or fourth grade argument, but, yeah, it is. And, but yeah, it's a lot more deeper than that, as you said. I mean, we can even go as far as even demonic in some cases, right? I would say that. Mm-hmm. And for all the people that would think this conversation is boring, if you're the kind of people that gets that hangs around because all the monsters start to come out in the store, you're going to hear plenty of that tonight. And I think they're in the form of parasites, I would say. And and there's so many other things I want to talk about too. I want to also focus on how man, not just men, but men and women, the whole human race is just deteriorating at this point. And when I mean that, I don't mean that in a moral sense, but we are deteriorating morally, but also in a physical sense. I would say if evolution was real, which is not, we are evolving, we're devolving. So that just proves evolution wrong, unless someone wants to argue and say that evolving is getting worse, because we are devolving. We're losing more information. We're being born with more medical issues. More people are born with autism. More people men are born with hormone imbalances, and so are women. For example, look around. There's men before the age of 30, erectile dysfunction is off the charts. I see a lot of men who are like 24, they're like 40. They lost all their hair already. They're out of shape. They have that, that skinny fat look. I'm just talking serious. And just to put this out there, someone who's in shape, who is healthy, a lot of people like to call that narcissism, right? And there is such thing as narcissism, right? For example, just how the world is. There's a lot of people that just post their bodies all day. All they do is post their bodies and look at my body. But at the same time, a healthy body that God created, like a healthy body that is in great condition due to just eating right and having proper exercise, that's how the human body looks. It's beautiful. When all those muscles are popping out, when the women have, the curves and all this, that is how God made it to look normally. So to be healthy, to me, is not narcissism when it's just how you are made, because you follow common sense, you eat good, you take care of yourself, you exercise properly. That's how a human body looks when it is properly nourished and taken care of. It looks beautiful because God created a beautiful creation. So, Amen. Yeah, that's just my opinion on that, because seriously, Vicki, that's how a body, when it's kept well, it looks well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I've always wondered, I really wonder what Adam and Eve looked like because I highly doubt they
No.
look like the American ideal where everybody's skinny and women's wombs are all sunk in. And you know what I mean?
No.
Like, I'm sure they're not these skinny minis. Like, I think Eve had some plump to her. She probably had some hips
Yeah,
and a butt, you know,
absolutely.
like, I think she has something to
Yeah.
grab onto, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, where were they born? Like, where was Eden? You know, where exactly was that? Some people say it's the Middle East. Some people think that's more of an interdimensional place. I tend to think that the fall from the garden was a fall from a heavenly dimension down to earth. I kind of follow the Gary Wayne 6-day creation. It makes more sense out of some of the inconsistencies between Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. If you think that's the same creation, there's a lot of contradictions there. And so it makes me wonder, you know, Jehovah sits and he decides that he's going to make a perfect creation. And I'll bet you that beauty ideal, if Adam and Eve, like if we saw pictures of them, we would probably as Americans not be physically or sexually attracted to them. We'd think they were fat. We would think they were, you know, whatever. Because we have started to worship emaciated bodies in this country, you know, where the women have to be super, super skinny and disproportioned, super, super skinny, but really big on top. And, you know, this Barbie doll kind of thing. I really wonder what the original ideal was. But with all the things that you're talking about too, there's a lot of people out there that are letting themselves go.
Yeah.
And we've got all this horribly genetically modified food. We have got a lack of self-discipline. We have all of these sugar cravings that we are not knowing how to say no to. And we have got tons of autoimmune disease or so-called autoimmune disease. We can talk about that later.
Yeah.
But as we launch into this, Lionel, I want the listeners to know why this is important to me. You know, people are like, well, this is the girl that talks about sleep paralysis. What's she talking about this for? And the reason I'm talking about this, and by this I mean fasting, self-healing, autoimmune, parasites. The reason why I'm interested in this is because I was recently miraculously healed by God, not a doctor, not a medicine, not a supplement, not a detox, not a program, not somewhere where I had to send, you know, $150 in a self-addressed stamped envelope to get my products. Like, I was cured through a 9-month journey of prayer where I had tried everything. I had exhausted all of my own efforts. I tried every detox, every lotion, every supplement, every pill, every cream, everything. And I had spent tens of thousands of dollars. I'm not using hyperbole. I spent tens of thousands of dollars out of my own pocket because naturopaths don't usually take insurance. And horrible elimination diets. And Lionel, it got to the point where it was just bondage. Trying to keep up with, like, it was sort of ruining my life. Like, it's, you know how hard it is to fellowship when you can't eat 90% of the things out there that people eat? And you can't eat bread anymore, and so
Yeah.
it's affecting your fellowship, and you're on the sidelines when you're out with your friends, and they're all eating all this great stuff, and you can't. And so the reason this is important to me is I took 9 months where I prayed and I said, God, I'm going to do nothing. I'm going to do nothing but pray, have an expectation and a hope, and I'm going to wait on you to cure me. Because even all these elimination diets and these supplements and all these exercises and the vitamin D and the zinc and all this stuff, it's not curing autoimmune. What it's basically doing is what all that stuff is basically saying is there's no cure for autoimmune, allegedly. But there's a briefcase in your gut, and there's a ticking time bomb in it. And eventually that bomb will go off. It's going to lead to cancer or something that's going to kill you. That bomb will go off because there's no cure. But we're going to teach you ways to tiptoe around that briefcase, you know, social distance yourself from that briefcase so that you don't tip it over and prematurely, like, blow it off, right? And I just said, you know, Father, that's not good enough for me. And Lionel, this was the underlying promise, because if you can hold God to his promises, right? This was the underlining promise that I held God to. And I went all the way back to the Old Testament. I went back to the Torah. God told his people, if you walk in covenant with me, the diseases of Egypt will not fall on you. And I believe that this autoimmune is a disease of Egypt. It's a disease of Babylon. It's not what they're telling us it is. And I thought, okay, I'm not perfect. I'm a sinner. Okay, saved by grace. I'm not saying I've achieved some sort of mountaintop here in my Christian walk, but Lionel, I am a covenant keeper. You know, I keep the Sabbath, and I avoid I keep the dietary laws, not because I think I'm going to burn in hell or lose my salvation if I don't do it, but I'm thinking there must be wisdom in this stuff. It's a covenant. It's part of the covenant. And so I, as best as I can, walk in covenant. And I'm like, Father, how can I walk in covenant with you and have a disease of Egypt? It does not make sense. And so it took me, I mean, I had this stuff for 11 years, but it took me 9 months of, and you know why it took 9 months, Lionel? Because I kept picking it back up and saying, I'm going to fix this. You're taking too long, God. So I would order another detox off of Amazon, or I would start doubling up on my vitamin D. Or the reason it took so long is because I kept pulling the reins back and telling God, you're taking too long. So I've got, someone just told me about this new thing I could take or whatever. So finally, when I stopped trying to do it on my own and just said, okay, Father, I'm completely reliant on you, I got healed. I wound up, Lionel, I love the way God works. I wound up doing a parasite cleanse and not even knowing that that's what I was doing. What? So I'm going to give a little bit of detail, but I'm just going to tell the listeners, if you're interested in my whole story, I'm not going to tell the whole story here. If you go to my YouTube channel, there's it's the longest video on there now. It's called Fasting Cured My Autoimmune. It's about an hour, and that tells the whole story. So you can go there if you're interested. But
no, but really quick, go ahead and what we discussed earlier, that whole thing you talked about, I would love for you to share it just how you did and add more to it if you want. It's guys, when I heard this earlier, I was just as shocked. And if you guys know me long enough to know that I'm in the fitness industry, and one thing I do know is about diets. I mean, I can make someone gain 20 pounds of muscle in a month or make them lose 50 pounds in like 5 days before a fight. So I know a lot about what goes in and out of the body, and I was kind of shocked at what she said. Go ahead, Vicki.
Wow. Okay. So you can hold me in check, Lionel. And if I got a bunch of BS coming out of my mouth, you can say, ho. But this is my personal experience. So here's my disclaimer, guys. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a life coach. I'm not a fill in the hundreds of blanks. I'm not anything. I am a sinner saved by grace who had 11 years of autoimmune, chronic fatigue, hair loss, rosacea all over my face. You guys would not, I would be embarrassed to show you, Lionel, pictures of me when I had rosacea. You could not, my face was covered and it was ugly. It looked like I had leprosy. You couldn't cover it with makeup. There was nothing I could do about it. I had gut issues. I was on the gluten-free diet. There was hardly anything that I could eat. On and on and on and on. All this stuff. Leaky gut, inflammation, 30 pounds overweight. I could not lose 1 pound no matter what I did. I'd be at the gym, nothing. So all this stuff is going on. So I've tried everything. I tried all the supplements, and anytime someone said this works for rosacea or this works for the gut or this works for autoimmune, I would do it. Like I said, I think I spent about $15,000 cash in the last 5 years trying to fix this with naturopaths and things like that. And I'm not dogging the naturopaths because I learned a ton from them, and I don't regret one dime I spent because it was all useful in my journey. So with that said, I sort of decided I wasn't giving up, but I was going to stop trying to fix it myself. And I was just going to wait on the Lord. And I guess, Lionel, in my Pollyanna sort of way, I guess I thought I was just going to wake up one day and it was going to be gone. And I'm not being facetious there. I'm not joking. Like, I literally thought he's just going to cure me. And one day I'm going to wake up and the rosacea is going to be gone and I'm going to get blood work done and they're going to say, you're cured, like in the Old Testament. Or in the New Testament, rather. And I'm just going to say this, Lionel. I have a theory. We don't really see the anointing that Jesus gave his disciples. He told them, I'm giving you an anointing. You're going to raise the dead. You're going to heal the sick. And you are going to cast out demons. We don't see a lot of churches nowadays successfully doing that. We see a lot of people pretending to do that. And every once in a while we do see a miracle. We see people who've cured from cancer and things like that. In the old days, we would lay hands on people, or we would anoint them with oil, and we would pray over them, and they would get healed. And I'm not saying that that formula won't work for us today, but I think that the anointing on the church that is going to bring mass amounts of healing from cancer, autoimmune, and any other flu that they decide to invent in the next year or two. The way we are going to cure people, the way the gift of healing is going to look in the church in this generation is we're going to learn to fast, and we're going to learn about parasites, which I think is the probably sole enemy behind all of these diseases. Maybe that's an exaggeration. Like I said, I'm not a doctor.
I agree.
But a lot of things that are, well, you've got irritable bowel syndrome, you've got Lyme's disease, you've got cancer, you've got a gluten intolerance, you've got leaky gut. What if those are all just symptomatic titles, but the root of all of it are these parasites? So before I tell you how I was cured, I'm going to go back to a scripture in the New Testament that I've always been intrigued by. There's a guy who brings his son to Jesus and says, my son has these seizures. He throws himself into the fire. He gets violent. Your disciples tried to cure him and they couldn't, help me. And why I love this passage is because you get a little bit of clarity if you look at all of the different translations. So if you go on like a Bible hub and look up one verse, and then they have all the different translations of the same verse, and you can see them all there side by side. In some translations, the father says that his son has seizures. In other translations, he says, my son has a lunatic spirit. In some translations, he says, my son is demon possessed. In some translations, it says, my son has epilepsy. And on and on. I think one translation says he's moonstruck, which is similar to lunatic. That's where we get Luna from, right? The moon of the moon. There's probably some indication there that when these ancient people worshipped the moon gods, like Sin, like Jericho, they worshiped the moon god, which is why when they traveled around Jericho and the walls fell during a full moon, because God was exerting his power over the moon god. Even when your God is at full strength, I can knock your walls down, right?
Yeah.
So when you're involved in monthly rituals that revolve around the phases of the moon, or various equinoxes, or eclipses and things like that, when you're worshiping these moon gods, you are actually taking part in rituals, like occult rituals. So they were probably doing blood sacrifice, they were probably doing cannibalism, they were probably doing orgies, they were probably doing things to children we don't want to talk about. So it is my theory that this boy picked up a lunatic spirit because he was being taken to a ritual because his family probably was worshiping a moon god of some kind. Because in one of the books, I don't know if it's Mark, in one of the Gospels that tells the story, Jesus asks the father, how long has this been happening? And he says, since childhood. So we know the boy wasn't born with it. It wasn't something genetic. He was a perfectly healthy boy, and at some point in childhood, all of a sudden, he's got a lunatic spirit on him, right? But here's where it gets really interesting. And I think we have all heard 100 sermons on this verse. And here's where I'm going to tell you, I think that we've had it wrong. He says, I took my son to your disciples and they couldn't cast him out. They couldn't cast out the demon. And Jesus gets a little miffed and he's like, oh, how long do I have to put up with you guys? And then he's like, some will only come out by prayer and fasting. And then he heals the boy, but he doesn't get healed of a disease. Demons come out of him, right? So here we have one of those obscure verses where a child is being co-offered to Jesus as someone who is sick. He has seizures, but Jesus doesn't heal him of a disease. He actually casts out demons. And so Here is what I want to point out about the fasting. All the sermons that we've heard is that Jesus is chastising his disciples, that the reason they were unable to successfully cast out these demons is because they haven't been fasting. Two things wrong with that interpretation. They had already been given an anointing. They had the ability to cast out demons. So why couldn't they do it in this case? And we also know from another passage in Scripture that the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the high priests and the scribes, they came to Jesus complaining, we have to fast. John the Baptist's disciples have to fast. How come your disciples aren't fasting? And he says, when the bridegroom is with the bride doesn't fast because you're there, you're feasting, you're with your bridegroom. And so he said, basically when I die, when I go away, they'll fast again. So why would Jesus chastise his disciples for not having enough faith to cast out a demon after anointing them to cast out demons and after already explaining that as long as he was with them, they didn't have to fast? So my theory is that he was telling the Father that the way to get rid of some quote unquote demons is the person who is demonized has to fast. So why is going without food and possibly water the solution to exorcising demons unless there are cases where the demon possession has manifested so deeply that it has started to take on physical aspects of illness? And it becomes one of those, which came first, the chicken or the egg? And here's what I think. I think a lot of demons, when a person is demonized, they're not going to be acting like Linda Blair in The Exorcist. They're not going to be vomiting up pea soup, and every time a priest walks by, they're going to talk in a growly little monster voice. And like that's theater. That's Hollywood. What demons are going to do, because they're smart, if they finally find a host, they don't want to get thrown out of that host. So they're going to be in there incognito. They're going to lay low. So what are they going to do? They are going to mimic physical and mental illnesses. That way, the person is off distracted at their psychiatrist's office, at the pharmacy, at the doctor's office, and they're going to be doing all of these things, making the Asclepians rich. And they're going to be doing all these things to heal the disease or heal the mental illness. And what they don't realize is, in many cases, in a lot of cases, I don't know statistically, maybe I should ask it as a question instead of a statement. How many of our physical and mental diseases and illnesses are just some sort of demonization manifesting that way as a ruse so that we don't figure it out and cast them out? Because we have authority over them. And if we knew we had a demon in us, we would do what we needed to do and they'd be out in a second. And so that's what I think. And I'll go a little bit into my story and how I got cured, Lionel, but I've been dominating the discussion. So I want to at least
we're losing. So, I just want to get it to touch a couple things. Going from the beginning, I have an opinion about the description of Adam and Eve. I think they were in perfect shape.
Yes.
And when you're in good shape and you eat right and you get proper exercise, your body looks how it is. If it's a guy, he's going to be lean. He's going to have, abdominal muscles, leg muscles. And a woman, she's always going to carry a little more fat around the hips and thighs because it's there to bear children. And she's probably going to be also very lean everywhere else because the body doesn't need to carry excess fat if you're, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, if you're healthy, you're healthy. I think that's how you look. And I'll go even further. If I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong on this. Did God not say he made the angels also in his image? Or no? I think he said
we are not told anything about when or how or why the angels were created. They're not really in the creation story.
Well, my point is that they kind of look, some of them look like us. They can, transform into us. And some of them, come out looking how they look. But their children, the giants, they were always supposedly physically fit and the best physical things that a human would be, but just times 1,000. And how did they look? Very muscular, very robust. So I would think a human would be a smaller version of that because it is it's a superhuman. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
That's the way I think. That's why it will look that way, is because the man is supposed to be there. Because back then, I mean, there wasn't factories, butchering animals for us. You had to go hunt yourself. You have to build your own things. You have to be strong for that. I don't think people understand who,
Yes.
I grew up on a ranch. You can't be in the shape you are just working at an office and coming home and watching TV and eating and think it's going to be easy to spend your whole day, and not just your whole day, your whole life. Okay. Axing your own wood, cutting down your own trees, hunting your own animals. You would have to be physically fit for that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So,
Amen.
yeah,
Amen.
I do think that. Yeah, go ahead.
I absolutely believe that the corporate world, which I'm speaking from experience, guys, I was in the corporate world for many, many, many years. Those office buildings are designed to make us sick.
Oh yeah.
You're in these offices all day. You leave before the sun comes out. When you come home, the sun is going down. You are in all of this, breathing in all of this recirculated air. You've got all of the fake lighting, and you're not getting any vitamin D. You're not getting any fresh air, and you're not really getting any light, because a lot of these office buildings, you're only getting a window office if you're a bigwig. So you're stuck in the sea of cubicles in the middle. You don't have enough time to eat. You're usually running to a cafeteria, getting some processed food or food out of a vending machine, or you're putting something in a microwave. You're getting 3 or 4 bites of it because you're so busy. You got to be back to the desk. That's causing cortisol levels. It's causing stress. The corporate world, it's almost as if it was intentionally designed to ruin your family and your body and your health.
Yeah, I would go on and say I agree with that based on the job that I do. I train a lot of professionals, people that do office jobs, and it's like you said, it could be causing problems anywhere from them not being able to see their wife, or vice versa, the husband enough, or the kids, or to anywhere from having bedroom problems because they can't perform because they're unhealthy, they're sick, their hormones are off balance. And back to what I was saying before, it's a scientific fact. Men and women today, how healthy we are, and compared to like a couple hundred years ago, is completely different. For example, men today, or men 300 years ago, when they were in their mid 40s, almost 50, they had the same testosterone. I mean, they had more testosterone back then at that age, almost 50, late 40s, than a man today would have it when he's 25. And what's changed since then and now, besides propaganda? Propaganda doesn't physically harm you. You know what I mean? It's just mental, but the bodies are also being physically altered. Like I said, men are having all these problems. Women are having problems. A lot of women can't have birth now, and on it goes. I would definitely say the difference between then and now would be the food, the air quality, the light quality. I mean, we're being affected with these phones. All that blue light messes up your brain, messes up your vision.
Yep.
The diets that we have, the radiation makes us sick. Everybody says just take probiotics and you'll be all right. I can't tell you how many probiotics I took and I don't feel nothing. It's like a placebo. I just want to say, yeah, I feel better, just to shut the person up that told me to take it. So,
Yeah.
because I don't know what to say. Do you feel better? Then you kind of trick yourself. Maybe I do feel better today. And actually I don't. So, nothing that I've taken, at least that I've tried, has helped me feel any better. I just changed up my diet a lot. As of recently, I don't have like a special diet. I just use common sense when I eat. For example, if I'm hungry, I'm not going to choose Carl's Jr. I'm going to choose to go home and cook something if I can. And if I can't go home and cook something, and my only option is to go to fast food, guess what? I'm going to skip that meal. I'm going to drink water until I'm full. So I try to make common sense decisions when I go to if I go to the corner store and I just want to get something quick. I see Coke, I see, this, I see, fruit drinks. I'm going to get a sparkling water at the very most so I can think I'm drinking a soda. You just make common sense decisions. They have the Snickers bars and they have the protein bars. Get the protein bar. Is it a perfect meal? No, but it's common sense, guys. Just have common sense when you eat. That's a start, I would say. The start is to have common sense. I can't tell you how many diets that I have seen in my lifetime. There's like 1 billion diets now. And I'm just going to go back, to 50, 40 years ago, or maybe, I don't know how long ago Arnold Schwarzenegger was around back in his prime. I want to talk about him a little bit. Not that he's some godly guy, but let's just talk about that guy, okay? There was no special pre-workout. There was no super vitamin. I mean, was that guy on steroids? Yes. So are the guys on steroids today? Yes. But the guys today are like on these, they're like also talking about billions and trillions of diets. And you want to go look at Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's doing the same drugs they're doing, but having a way simple diet. He would just eat massive amounts of meat and vegetables and drink a lot of water. And he looks better back then than the guys today that have triple the amount of drugs, triple the amount of diets, and all the synthetic, stuff in food that can make this, this part grow bigger and this part heal faster. Arnold Schwarzenegger looked better back then with just food. You get what I'm saying? So there's definitely something going on. Even just intelligent levels are also going down. I mean, IQs, your IQs are going down. I mean, the list goes on. Like, for example, I was talking about earlier, I want to bring this up. I thought this was crazy to me. So looking back at all the history that I like to look at ancient history of diets and workouts from, ancient times. And what I found out is the Greeks, the Romans, they had a very strong physique that as of recently, maybe in the past less than 3 decades ago, when they were examining some of these skeletons that they found of medieval skeletons, and even as far back as the Greeks and the Romans. At first, these people that found them, archaeologists, whatever you want to call them, they thought they were like deformed people until they found a bunch of skeletons. And what was deformed about them was they had these big, massive arm bones compared to the rest of their body, to end up finding out that their arm bones were extra big because they had to compensate for all the muscle mass that they had, because these were archers, right? And these archers started, as they were children, and the point is that their diet was very simple. They had pottage, nuts, fruits, vegetables, and pottage would be just a soup with some veggies, maybe some meat, some beef or some fish. And they were able to develop that kind of muscle that today will probably take a lot of unnatural supplements to get. And this was all just from their diet and pulling that bow. And people can argue all day that, it's the exercise growing up as a kid that got them there. Yes, but it also takes nutrients to grow the muscle. You can't just grow muscle and bone without an outside source going into the body. It's very simple. The human body grows when you put a lot in it, and it shrinks when you take a lot out. It's very simple. So it was their diet too that got them to have the vitamins and the nutrients in order for those bones to grow extra bigger, in order for those muscles to get extra stronger, and so on and so on. So that's something I wanted to bring up. Have any questions?
Yeah, no, actually, I want to add some stuff to that. So I think one of the reasons why we have all of these, like the diet confusion, no two people are alike. This idea that every single human being has the same metabolism. And this is why we've got the people that only eat fruit. And then we've got people who only eat meat. Then we've got the vegetarians, and we've got all this, right? Some people, depending on metabolism, some people, you're going to lose weight and be really healthy if you're eating a lot of fruits and vegetables. Other people, you're going to get lean and lose weight and be really healthy if you're eating a lot of meat. And then the third type of metabolism is you're kind of a combination of both, right? And what I think is really interesting is when you look at how villainized eating meat is in America, and you notice it's increasing, and there's all of this like demonizing the cows, like, their flatulence is destroying the ozone layer, as if the creator of the universe would create something that would destroy his own planet.
Especially
right?
Cows. So, I mean, they're just chilling, they ain't doing anything. They don't do
right. Exactly.
They're so innocent.
Well, here's my little theory, and you can take it or leave it. I'm not dogmatic on this, but here's my theory. I think that the reason why we're being told that meat is bad for us is the same reason why in other countries they don't eat meat, because it's sacred, right? You don't eat the cow because it's sacred, or that could be a reincarnated relative. Like, you can't eat the cow. Well, over here, that's not going to work in America, because our stomachs are our gods. And if you tell us not to eat ribeyes anymore, we're going to say, screw you, I'm going to eat my ribeye, right? So how do you get an American to not eat beef? You scare them. If you eat this, you're not going to have your sexy body anymore. It's bad for you. And there's nothing worse for an American than not looking good in their jeans, right? So that's the way they spin it here. But what's really happening here is the ancient gods, they didn't retire. They didn't die. they're still around. And much of these ancient gods, these Nephilim and the Watchers and the fallen ones, they were depicted as cows and bulls and calves. And so when we eat meat, we are desecrating their gods, right? And so we are being unwittingly groomed into a form of worship because we are not allowed to desecrate their gods. Don't eat the meat, don't eat the beef, even though it says in Genesis, as part of the Noahic covenant, that's when God put the rainbow in the sky and he made a covenant with Noah from this point forward. I will never flood the earth again. There's all these stipulations. If someone takes a life, you take their life because they've struck down the image of God. There's all these stipulations in the Noahic covenant. One of them is you're free to eat anything that moves along the earth. Now, granted, there's some nuances there. And when you get into the parts of scripture where things are biblically unclean, you're dealing with bottom feeders. So there are vultures and various carrion that eat off of the corpses of dead birds and dead animals. When you're talking about lobsters and some of the sea animals, they're the vacuum cleaners of the ocean. They're along the ocean floor and they eat the corpses. And so when you evaluate the things that we're not supposed to eat, it's because they're eating off of dead things. And we're going to get into that when we talk about the parasites and things like that. But basically, what they're trying to do is groom us into not desecrating their gods. And another thing, and this is the last thing I'll say about the villainizing the meat. I have also heard people who try to spin it biblically that Daniel and his cohorts, right, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they did not want to eat the meat in Babylon because they knew that it was offered to the gods. It was involved in rituals, and it was involved in sacrificial ritual meals. And so they didn't want to eat the meat of Babylon, A, because it was used in rituals, and B, it was probably unclean meat that wasn't kosher to them. And so people will say, well, Daniel survived on water and vegetables, and he thrived and he got really strong. So eating no meat and only eating vegetables and water, that's the biblical prescription for how to be healthy and strong. But what people aren't realizing is that when Daniel and Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego were strong and healthy and even more fit than the ones eating the meat, that was the whole miracle. That was the miracle, that somehow these guys eating nothing but broccoli and carrots were just as healthy as the guys eating all the meat. That they marveled at that. They saw that as a miracle. And so it just shows that there's no biblical mandate that says we cannot or should not eat meat, that it's wrong, that it's sinful, Absolutely. That it's not good for us. And so I'm not dogging on vegetarians and vegans, Lionel. Everybody has to do what they want to do. And I got hills that I'm going to die on in this life. And if someone doesn't want a ribeye, that's up to them.
That's fine.
But the fact of the matter is, don't try to make this into a spiritual or a biblical mandate for all of mankind when the Bible clearly says in the Noahic covenant that we're free to eat of anything that roams the earth.
And doesn't a Passover have meat involved?
Yes. So, in fact, they were commanded on Passover. Passover wasn't it was mandatory. And you ate that Passover lamb. You partook of it. And so if you didn't partake of the Passover lamb, you were actually breaking the Torah. So yeah, that's a really good point too. Obviously, we have examples of Jesus eating fish and things like that as well. So it's just not a real solid argument. If you don't want to eat meat, that's your choice. But to make it a point of religiosity where God has commanded us, or that it's somehow sinful, or that you're somehow more spiritual than the people that do, you don't really have a hermeneutical leg to stand on if you're trying to argue that biblically.
Yes, I 100% agree. A lot of people are making it a religious thing, or, you're not really a Christian, or you're not really this because you eat meat. You're interpreting the Bible wrong. The lamb means a piece of bread, that it's a symbol for a piece of bread, that the Catholics do, and all this stuff. I mean, people could just make up whatever they want, however they feel, just to twist things around. But like you said, they can eat whatever they want, whenever they want, how they want. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. We're just here to give the information out. And if you don't like it, then that's it's okay. And if you do, I hope you guys learn something and then try it out. Just, try something different. In my opinion, doing what I've been doing for almost my entire life. I've been in the fitness industry since I was 13. And people are going to say, what'd you know at 13? I knew a lot at 13. I was very blessed to have professional NFL players and bodybuilders around me when I went to Gold's Gym that just taken a like to me and showed me a lot of things about diet. Oh, what's going on? Don't you touch that down now. The Sabbath at Midnight episode is over. This? But not the Sabbath at Midnight. So thank you everybody for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you learned something.
Man. It's our mandatory.
Hopefully stay away from Bigfoots. So I'm going to let Dominic close out this episode. Everybody have a good night or a good morning, whatever the case. We're going to have to delete that part out. Let me see. What time was that at 47. Okay. So, as I was saying, all this stuff about certain diets and all that, because nowadays there are certain, autoimmune diseases and different things that people are born with because of all the stuff that's going in the food, the hormones, the pesticides. Some people cannot tolerate certain meats. Some people can't tolerate, some people can't even eat a lemon because their body can't handle the acid. Lactose intolerance. But maybe I could be wrong. Maybe when we get into this parasite thing, we could, trade some information and see how we could, battle these things, because I really do think a parasite is like demonic, because, a spirit takes over the body, takes over your wants, your needs, your control. And I will say a parasite does that in a different way, kind of in a physical way, but it's still, spiritual in a way, because the things that makes you do affects you in the spiritual realm, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is a great place to transition to the parasites. So, again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving out advice. I'm giving you my personal experience of my own healing. But also, and obviously, I believe in allergies. I believe there's people that are allergic to milk, and so don't drink it, right? I'm not one of these people like handle the snakes and you won't get bitten. I'm not trying to be a snake handler here. If you have allergies and whatnot, but what my experience is all of a sudden in my 40s, all of a sudden I'm being told I'm allergic to wheat and gluten, and there's all this food I can't eat. And you should have seen my elimination diet, Lionel. There was like 30 things left that I could eat the rest of my life. And that included like salt, pepper, and so. No,
really quick. Just to stop you there. I'm laughing because I have people that come into the gym and they're telling me this doctor said this and that. They're literally telling them don't eat meat, don't eat these vegetables, don't eat this, don't eat that. And I'm like, so what's left to eat? Like, what can you eat? Like, you can eat a piece of radish and a piece of lettuce and a little sip of water throughout the day. Great. Basically, it gets to the point, like, what can you eat? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I basically was living on kale, asparagus, a couple kinds of fish. I could eat beef. I could eat turkey. I was never supposed to eat chicken ever again. And this was great too. I was told you can't eat broccoli. You can't, like, all these vegetables were off the table. But at the same time, I'm being told I have to eat 6 to 8 servings of vegetables a day. So I do this for like 6 months and I get retested and I'm told I have too much fiber and to cut down on the green vegetables. So I couldn't even, it made no sense. So anyway, with all that said, why all of a sudden in my 40s can I not eat stuff? Why, even when I'm eating healthy organic food, why am I bloating after every meal? What's going on here? All of a sudden I have holes in my intestine is what I'm being told. All of a sudden I'm being told that my thyroid that God created, that my immune system no longer knows what it is and it's attacking it because it thinks it's an enemy. Why all of a sudden is this complex system that God created going defunct? Why is this disease of Egypt upon me? And so that was what I was praying through. So I'm gonna get to the punch, and I'm gonna keep this short. But here is where I accidentally got healed. Okay, I wasn't even thinking about my autoimmune or getting healed or anything. And a friend and I had been on a 4-year journey together where we had been fasting and we had been learning how to fast and learning how to pre-fast so that we didn't get the headaches and all that stuff. And so every time we would get together and do a fast together, we would pick something that we were praying for. and we would be maybe interceding for the nation, like during the election, or we would be interceding for friends who were sick, something like that. So we called it intercessory fasting, and we were kind of just experimenting that if two people come together and pray and fast, will it be more effective than if we don't pray with fasting, or we don't pray with another person. And so we've been doing this for several years, and we had seen a lot of miracles and a lot of people getting healed. And so I don't know now, a couple months ago, I found out that a friend of mine was terminal, and I didn't even know that she was sick. And I was very distressed because I just love this woman very dearly, and I was very affected by it. So I called my friend and I said, would you be willing to fast for a friend of mine who's terminal? And by this point, we've been doing this for 4 years. And so we decided to do a 10-day fast from food. So we were still going to drink water, but we just were going to fast from food. And when you've been fasting for 4 years and you've been incrementally working up to that, 10 days is actually not that hard. By day 4, you're not hungry anymore, especially if you haven't, leading up to the fast, if you haven't been eating sugar or caffeine. It's pretty easy. If you can get through the first 3 days of hunger pains, day 4 through 10, it actually gets easier and easier. You actually get more and more energy.
That's interesting.
It sounds hard, but if you've worked up to it, a 10-day fast really isn't that big.
I've done like 2 days max. I've done like 2 days.
And you're actually robbing yourself, because day 4 is the payoff. So if you go through 2 or 3 days of pain and you quit, it's like being a runner in the Olympics and being 10 feet from the finish line and quitting the race. Like, that's what it is when you fast 2 or 3 days. Day 4 that's when deep repair in the body starts to happen, and things like that.
So really quick, because for the audience, because I'm curious too. So tell me, day 4, you're fasting. How do you feel mentally, physically, happy, mood, hormones, up, down, left, right? Love to know, because I'm curious.
Well, I'll tell you this. When you get to day 4 and your body is riddled with autoimmune, aka parasites, day 4 through 10 is going to be living hell. And I used to think, what are all these people talking about? By day 4, I'm out doing cartwheels and all this nonsense. Because when I used to fast, I would still be hungry. I'd still be in pain. I'd get horrible leg cramps. Now, some of this stuff, some of the headaches and the leg cramps could actually be a parasite die-off. Like they always say, it's because you're off caffeine and things. Some of these things that you're experiencing, getting sick, throwing up, leg cramps, headaches, some of that could actually be a parasitic die-off because you're starving them. So sometimes we look at the pain and we're like, I don't like this isn't fun, so I'm going to quit. But sometimes that pain is a sign that you're actually healing. So stick with it. So, but when you're healthy, because now I've had fasts since I don't have the autoimmune. If you're doing a fast and you're not sick and you don't have parasites, by day 4, 5, 6, you're actually euphoric. You have energy. And if you're pairing your fasting like you're supposed to be with a spiritual experience where you're praying and you're worshiping, it is a euphoric time of intimacy with God. But you have to work up to that. And if you're sick or you have parasites or you have autoimmune disease, you're not going to have that experience until you get rid of the parasites.
What?
This is the way a healthy body responds in a fast.
Okay. So really quick for the audience, what about the thirst part of it? Can you drink water during this time, or can you not drink water?
Yeah. So a regular fast, you are drinking water. And that's the way my friend and I always did it. We would just do these, water fasts where all we would be drinking is water. Now, there's tons of different kinds of fasts, Lionel, and they're all legit. Some people do bone broth fasts where all they drink is water and bone broth. Some people do coffee fasts. Now, this doesn't mean Starbucks full of whipped cream and chocolate and caramel and all that stuff, right? I'm talking just black coffee. There are people that do milk fasts, but now that's more of an ancient technique. And if you're going to do a milk fast, I don't mean you go and get a plastic carton full of plasticides with your skim milk at the grocery store, right? I'm talking whole milk from the farm. You're drinking the raw milk with all of the good stuff in it. So a really good book, if people are interested in fasting, for $5, you can go on Amazon and get a book called The Fasting Cure by Upton Sinclair. Lionel, it was written in 1911, and you would have thought it was written a month ago. He's talking about the gluten and the refined sugar, and he doesn't use the words autophagy and ketosis, but he's describing those exact same things. They just have different terms for it. So if anyone's interested in this, and what I love about the book, The Fast and Cure, is it's not a formula. It's not a one size fits all, like do a 10-day fast and on day 4 do this and only it's basically you listen to your body. And when you're doing a hunger fast, your body will tell you when it wants to eat again. And I don't mean I want a Twinkie. I mean, you're going to know. You listen to your body. And I'm talking about when you're fasting because you're sick. You've got cancer, you've got autoimmune, you've got parasites. When you dry fast, which we're going to talk about for a second here, the tongue is the indicator of when to stop. So what we've been told since birth is 3 days without water, you keel over dead, right? Well, we know this isn't true because there's people that do 3-day, 5-day, 7-day, and 10-day water fasts. Now they've worked up to it and they know their bodies. The indicator of when you stop dry fasting is that your tongue changes color. So when you dry fast, your tongue changes to white, and that's good. But once that white color starts to change and go away, that's your body saying, I need the water now. We're done. But the reason why they're spreading this Truman Show-esque kind of myth that we must start drinking water after day 3 is because day 4 is when all of our T cells regenerate in the body. Our organs will repair. Parasites will be taken out of the body. They'll be ejected. Healing of major diseases start happening on day 4 of a dry fast. So that's why Big Pharma and the Asclepians don't want you to figure that out. So you're going to die. Truman, if you go into the ocean, you'll drown. You know, this is the whole Truman Show story. You know, don't go 3 days without water. So I can give you a personal story. My grandmother, she passed away when she was 98 years old. And I think she was about 90 pounds. She looked like a skeleton. She was just withering away. And she didn't have any heart problems. She'd never had a stroke. She didn't have cancer. She was just old. She didn't have any illness or sickness. The only medication she had ever been on her entire life was an over-the-counter diuretic, like a stool softener, because she was constipated a lot. She had never had a heart problem, never had surgery, never had a stroke. She was blind and deaf and had trouble pooping, but she was 98 years old and just going strong. When the hospice nurse came in and said, okay, we can tell by this, this, and this that she's probably, at the last, 24 hours of her life. And at this point, she was not conscious. Her eyes were closed. She wasn't speaking, but she was breathing. So they stopped giving her water. They stopped feeding her. They took her off any sort of support system. They didn't give her anything to drink, no IV, no fluids, no food. And this 98-year-old woman lived 11 days until she passed away. 11 days.
That's amazing.
Isn't it? It's incredible. So here's my story, Lionel. I keep saying here it is, and then
that's beautiful. That's insane.
These fabulous tangents. But so a friend and I decided to do a 10-day water fast for the healing of a terminal friend. So at this point, I'm blissfully unaware of my own problems. I'm not focused on my bloating and my weight gain and my disgusting gluten-free bread. There's nothing going on these 10 days except we're focusing on praying for this friend. So I get 5 days into my fast and I'm feeling pretty good. And Lionel, unless you know me, I am very kind of stoic Scandinavian. Plus I'm from Missouri, the show me state. Like I'm kind of the Thomas, like show it to me. I'm not moved by my emotions. I'm not moved like when I'm in church and the worship is going, I'm not sobbing, and it takes a lot to kind of get some genuine emotion out of me. So I'm not one of these people that has a bunch of dreams and visions and the Holy Spirit told me this and that sort of a thing. I kind of want it in black and white. I want to see it in scripture. I'm kind of boring like that. But at the end of day 5 of this fast, I can't even explain to you how. It was nothing like I didn't get goosebumps and, I didn't see like a vision of an angel in the room or anything, but I just knew in my heart. I absolutely knew that the Lord was telling me, do the remaining 5 days as a dry fast. And fortunately, I was so ignorant because by the time you haven't eaten for 5 days, your stomach is so empty that drinking tons and tons of water becomes disgusting, and you get that acid reflux and stuff. So I don't really drink tons of water at that point anyway. So I thought, oh, this will be okay. I just won't drink water. That's cool. And so I went into it blissfully ignorant of how difficult it was going to be. And I made a lot of mistakes too, because the 5 days that I had been fasting, I was also going to the gym every day, and I was sitting in the sauna for 30 minutes. So I was dried out. As I was already pretty dried out, right? But I didn't know that I was going to be doing this dry fast. And typically, if you're going to do a dry fast, you do it first, not after 5 days of being hungry, right? I didn't know, but I really felt like the Lord was telling me. So the way I interpreted that was, my friend is going to die. Her life is hanging in the balance. What if the enemy is involved in this? Because it was the result of long COVID. So I thought, what if the enemy has such an investment in this one, or such a grip on her, that it was going to just take more intense of a fast to save her life? And I thought, if I can have any impact on saving this woman's life, am I going to like let her die because I don't, I've got to have my water, right? And believe me, Lionel, I know no one lives or dies based on what I do or don't do, right? Okay, God ordains before our days how many we have. I'm not saying that if I hadn't fasted, she would have died or whatever. But my interpretation is this must be warfare, and I got to kick it up into high gear because this woman's life is hanging in the balance, and she's my friend. And if the way I can express love to this woman who doesn't even know I'm fasting for her, can I go without water for 5 days? And so I will just tell you in a nutshell that it was the hardest test of endurance I've ever had in my entire life. It was rough. And by the end of day 3, the friend that I was fasting with and my dad were like, you got to stop. You got to drink water tomorrow. And they had me talked out of it. Like, I'm going to drink water tomorrow. They're right. Lionel, I couldn't think, the brain fog. I couldn't string a sentence together. I was talking like a drunkard. If I even got up to just go to the bathroom, I would have to stop and rest. I couldn't even get back to my chair. I was so weak. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna drink tomorrow. And as a small little tangent, because when I said that every time I went to the bathroom, I'm not drinking water and I haven't eaten, but I am going to the bathroom like 5, 6, 7 times a day.
Wow.
And what's amazing about the way God designed our body is when we start to dehydrate, the body does every single thing it can to get moisture. So what it's doing, and this is why you lose so much weight on a dry fast. The body is so desperate for moisture, for hydration, that it starts ripping open your fat cells because it knows there's water in there. But once it rips open the fat cells, what's happening in our current generation, because of all the genetically modified food and all of the, the fast food and the pop and the caramel color and the aspartame, all that, is the body doesn't know how to digest it because it doesn't recognize it as food. So it's like, why would I digest this? It's not food. So it's recognized by the body as poison. So it wraps the poison in a fat cell to protect the body from it. So when you dehydrate yourself, the body becomes so desperate for hydration, it starts ripping open that fat cells, but then it discovers this isn't water. This isn't pure, good water. So you're peeing it out all day. So you're literally getting rid of fat cells. Yeah. So this is happening, and I wake up on day 4 and I'm like, I'm going to have my water today. I got permission. My dad told me not to do this anymore. He's my authority. I got to listen to him, right? You have all these excuses in the world, right? And again, I can't explain it because it wasn't anything goosebumpy or supernatural. It was just an absolute knowing in my mind.
Yeah, you
I
had
said
to.
5. I said 5 days.
So how many?
And so
what point? At what day was this on again? This
was the beginning of day 4.
Oh wow.
So I had 2 days left,
Oh,
and
that's wild.
I have to tell you, day 4 and 5 were brutal.
No,
right?
I get thirsty just from cause it's hot where I live really quick. I get just from walking from here to the car, I just drench, and I get like moody when I don't get my water right away. So I can't even imagine 4 days. Anyways, go ahead.
It was rough. My mouth, I was like, the cotton mouth was terrible. And I'm going to tell you a little something about the cotton mouth in a second. But I get up on day 4 and I feel like this is exactly what the Lord told me, Lionel. I said 5 days. Pray that I will sustain you to day 5. And I'm like, whoa, okay. So my prayer for the last 48 hours was, God, I'm not asking you to make this easy, but I'm asking you to sustain me. And he did, but it was rough. By the end of day 4, and bear in mind, I would have quit. So this wouldn't have happened if I had drank water that morning. Again, I'm blissfully ignorant because I don't know what's going on. And I'm not real in tune with my body. And I don't know much about health in the body as you do. I just kind of get up and I eat and I go to the bathroom and say it's all good, right? I don't really know a lot. So that day, I kept going number 2. And it didn't make sense to me because I hadn't eaten in 9 days. So I called my friend who had done a lot more dry fasting than me. And I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, oh my gosh, Vic. She's like, did you look at it? And I'm like, I didn't looking at it. No. And she goes, no. She's like, next time look at it. And I'm like, that's so gross. And she's like, no, believe me, you got to look at it. I'm like, oh, yuck.
Oh my gosh.
So the next time I went, and fortunately it was the last time, because if I figured out what was going on, it would have been rough. But I looked and there was hardly anything there. And I'm like, well, that's anticlimactic. You know, it was just tiny little rabbit poops, right? And so I'm like, well, that's dumb. So I flushed the toilet and it's all just circling down the drain like it's supposed to. And for some reason, I'm just staring at it, probably because I don't have enough energy to do anything else at that point. So I'm just sitting there in a trance, like just staring at it. And as it's all moving in one direction, the pieces themselves start moving in the opposite direction.
What?
And they start unwinding.
Oh, God. I knew it was going to be something like that. Ugh.
Parasites.
I knew it. Oh, my gosh.
Thank God.
That's scary.
Thank God that was the orifice they chose, because anything else would have been way too much for me, man. But,
oh, my gosh.
So, Lionel, here's the thing. I was doing a 10-day fast for Praying for a Friend. And what I didn't realize was a culmination of 9 months of telling the Lord, I'm going to stop spending money and ordering everything that I see. You have to heal me, and you have to heal me in a way where you get all the glory. And unbeknownst to me, the fast that he told me to do was a parasite cleanse. I dehydrated those things out of my body. And my dad, who knows a lot about this stuff because he worked for Abbott Labs for almost 30 years, what my dad said is, the reason that they were all curled up is because when they're dying, they're trying to retain what little moisture they have left. So when they hit the water, they were unwinding to soak up all that moisture. Oh, they were dehydrating.
My God.
They were dehydrating.
I just can't. I feel like there's some in my body just you saying that right now.
Dude, I know.
I for a fact I have some. There has to be.
I know. So let me just give a couple little details about dry fasting for all those people out there going, I'm going to try that.
Because I don't want these things in me either.
When I talk about dry fasting, I don't just mean you don't drink water. You're not eating. You're not drinking water. You're not going to dehydrate parasites out of your body if they're getting moisture. All the water that we touch absorbs into our skin. So if you're washing your hands, or you're taking a shower, or you're brushing your teeth, they're going to get that water. You're feeding them. You're going to continue to give water to these parasites. And so for the people that say, okay, I can get on board with all that, except the teeth brushing, because that's disgusting, and it is. And it's hard. That was the hardest part of it, Lionel, is that like your mouth is just like cotton.
I
and
just can't imagine.
Tasting weird. But here's what we found out. And by we, I mean my friend and I, who've been doing all this research.
Yeah.
We discovered that film that goes all over your mouth, you haven't brushed your teeth for days or drank water for days, It's a curative film designed by God. It's covering every aspect of your mouth and your tongue and your teeth and your gums, and it is actually healing and repairing your teeth and your gums. And this is why a lot of people who dry fast frequently will talk about how their teeth have gotten whiter, because it whitens your teeth. So all of this stuff that we go to the dentist for, the cavities and the gum disease and you know, the soreness of the gums and the teeth getting discolored, that film is actually part of the healing process. And if you brush it off, first of all, I'll tell you, if you brush it off, within 30 to 60 seconds, it's back. So it's only temporary relief anyway. So if you feel that parasites might be behind your autoimmune disease and you're on an elimination diet and you have chronic fatigue and you're taking $400 a month worth of supplements,
Sounds
and you're
like
in
me.
bondage, in bondage trying to keep up with all this stuff, you might want to prayerfully consider and work up to and learn about how to do a dry fast. I would start with, 12 hours. And you don't want to don't be like me and decide 5 days into a fast, so I'm just not going to drink water for another 5 days. Like, I was ignorant, guys. But in my case, I believe that the Lord knew that that's what it was going to take to get the parasites out of me. In 10 days, Lionel, I lost the 25 pounds that I couldn't lose for 11 years. I've kept it off. It's been 2 months. I've kept it off. I've been eating bread. I've eaten candy. I had spaghetti for dinner last night. I'm not gaining the weight back. My hair is not falling out. My rosacea is gone. The chronic fatigue is gone. I might be repeating myself at this point, but
No, go ahead.
The bloating is gone. The inflammation is gone. Everything's gone. So did I really have Hashimoto's and leaky gut and a gluten insensitivity and chronic fatigue, or did I just have parasites? And that was the way they were manifesting. And just so people know, I did go and get blood work done, and I have the proof in blood work that my thyroid is normal. I do not have Hashimoto's. I do not have leaky gut. My autoimmune is undetectable, which is the way that they measure autoimmune stuff. And so I have evidence from the doctor and from my blood that they had me like with 5 diagnoses between Hashimoto's, rosacea, leaky gut, gluten insensitivity, and the what was the 5th one?
Rosacea.
Yeah, one of them. So anyway, so what's really fascinating about all of this, and we're going to shift gears. And so before we shift gears, I'll let you get in there if you want to say something, but I want to explain to people the absolute beauty that God not only created our bodies to self-heal, but he put it all over the Bible, what we need to do to never get parasites. So that's where I'm headed next, but I want to hand the floor to you
I would love to jump into that, because I feel like I was listening to one of those commercials where all the symptoms, all the symptoms I have, where all that, you might have a parasite. I swear that's me. Like, I've got IBS. I mean, I'm like getting older, but I don't feel like I'm that old for some of the things. I just turned 36 last month. So I have IBS really bad. I have heartburn. I mean, anything I eat gives me heartburn at this point. Like, don't eat this, don't.
Yeah.
If I don't eat anything they say that gives you heartburn, all I'm left with is a piece of lettuce at the end of the day. So this and no one has like IBS. There's no cure for it. There isn't. They just tell you, don't eat this, don't eat that. And even though when you don't, you still feel like crap. So I said, it has to be. You said, did you have IBS or a parasite? What if the parasite causes it? What if the IBS is a parasite? Because I can't get it to go away. I feel like, and I had the same thing when you said fatigue, foggy. I'm always tired. I'm always irritable. I'm always tired. I'm always irritable. No matter how much sleep I get, I'm tired. And and I'm foggy brain, whatever you call it, when you just can't think, you can't hold a thought, you can't concentrate on anything. You just want to be home, locked in your room, and just go, that's how I feel all the time. And then my diet, it's impossible for me to stay on my diet because don't feel good all the time. It's crazy, man. Now that you say all that, I do. And
Well,
I've heard about this parasite thing before. And when you were talking about the worm thing, it just brought me to some video that I saw, how people shouldn't eat bear meat because I guess bears have a lot of worms and parasites. And I saw them, this bear was there and it was a dead bear and they cut the skin, and just right underneath the skin, there's like so many parasites and worms moving around, and it just, oh my God, and people eat the bear meat, you know, but I'm just like really, man, because I know, because I feel like I feel like I have that, so I need to get in touch with the dry fasting, whatever you call it, ASAP.
I think most of us Americans, because of the degradation of the food and everything that they're launching against us, I do think most of us do have them. And even me, I'm not resting on my laurels, because as quickly as I got rid of them, if I decide to go to Taco Bell every day and drink, a 12-pack of Diet Coke every day, it's only going to be a matter of time before they come back.
That's what I was going to ask you. How do you know if it comes back? So when this happened, after you're done with your fast, here's my question. You're right after you're done doing your fast, the parasites, you saw the worms coming out, whatever you call them. And how did you feel after that, besides your physical, besides your rosacea going away? Did you, like, your mind, were you motivated again? Like that, that motivation you used to have when you were, whenever year you had it, that feeling again that you can conquer the world and you want to get things done. Like, that feeling has gone.
Yeah. Yes.
And been replaced, and it's been replaced with IBS, heartburn, fatigue, concentration issues.
Yeah.
That drive has been replaced with this drive.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's like spiritual.
Exactly. So the refeed, sometimes the refeed, when you start eating again after the fast, in some ways that's even more painful than the fast, because you're starving, but you eat a little bit and you're full, and you can really, you have to be on a liquid diet for at least 3 days. And then you're just eating watermelon and bone broth, and you're starving, and you got to be really careful what you eat when you get back on it, and when you get back to eating. But once I was refed and I realized that the weight was gone, because usually when I had autoimmune, I would fast and I would lose 10 to 15 pounds. And within 3 days, I was all the way back up to the weight I was at, because it was inflammation and it was bloating and it was, so when I realized that the weight wasn't coming back, and instead of wearing XL t-shirts and size 14 pants, I was back into my 6s.
Wow. And,
because all the bloating was gone, and little things like I got my arms back, I was starting to get the old lady arms, that get like wide and pocky, and right, I was starting to look like an old woman, and it was starting to show in my neck, and it was starting to show everywhere.
Yeah,
and
you look a lot different, by the way, too, since I first met you. You look a lot like you lost a lot of weight from here and all this stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy everywhere. Like, my back curve had disappeared. I got my back curve back. And I'm loving it. So yeah, you just want to, all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I can wear shorts again. And I don't have that, every time you go somewhere, like all of a sudden I was just feeling like an old woman.
No,
and now it's like,
I know what you mean.
I'm wearing the clothes I wore in my 20s again. Like, it's just great, and so that obviously, and then you've got your energy, and you're not tired all day anymore, and you're sleeping better, and then obviously you start to make better choices, because you're like, I'm maintaining this, So what I'm going to do to maintain it now, I'm always going to be a faster, Lionel, because it's biblical, and it's something that we do. But I'm not necessarily doing a bunch of dry fasting. I'm not going to get into performance fasting. Like, well, now I'm going to see if I can do 15 days. Like, I'm not into that, right? And what I'm going to do now is, there are certain herbs that you can take. That there's bitter herbs, like there's wormwood, and there's things that you can take that. There are things that we can do. This is key. If you don't listen to anything I say, remember this. There are things that we can do in our diet to make our bodies inhospitable to parasites. The reason parasites love hanging around in our body is because we're giving them everything they want. We're giving them the potatoes and the French fries dipped, dunked in seed oils, and we're giving them the sugar and the donuts and the pop and all that stuff that's wonderful that I love, and but we are creating a nice, comfy man cave for these things, right? And so they're just like taking up residence in our colon. Like, why should I go anywhere, man? She's going to like eat another dozen donuts today. And so there are things that in the past were eaten as part of the normal American diet. And it makes the human body inhospitable to parasites, but we don't like to eat them because they don't taste good. And we've gotten to a point now where everything we eat has to be sugary and savory and sweet. And we put sugar and salt on everything. And if you go to McDonald's, I just saw a video, every single thing on the McDonald's menu has sugar in it because it's addictive, right? The fries have sugar in it. You know, the Coke is nothing more than high fructose corn syrup. So there's bitter herbs. Like people used to eat bitter herbs. They used to put cloves, like cloves is an antibacterial. They would put cloves like in their coffee. They'd make clove water and put it in their coffee. And even though that stuff doesn't taste good, it makes your body inhospitable.
Yeah.
Because these things are anathema to the parasites. They don't want that stuff. And if you create an inhospitable environment for them, they'll leave. Like they'll literally leave. And what's frustrating and discouraging about these expensive detoxes that, you know, you're on these detoxes for a month and you're drinking all these creepy elixirs and you're waiting a half hour and then you have to do this and that. And like, they're obnoxious and they're expensive.
Oh yeah.
But here's the deal. Some of these detoxes are only going to clean out your stomach, and the parasites aren't in your stomach. They're in your colon.
Oh wow.
If you go and get blood work, the reason why the doctor's going to tell you you don't have parasites is because they have to test your colon. They're not doing the tests. I just had a doctor tell me you don't have parasites. And I did, because the tests, they're not testing the right part of the body. And another thing, and this is gross, but even if you get parasites out, if they laid eggs, you just wait till that gestation period and now you got them again.
So gross.
So I personally don't want to be doing these disgusting liver detoxes every month and all this stuff, right? So I'm probably not going to be doing a fast like that numerous times a year. But there are bitter herbs and things that you can do once you've detoxed. There's things that you can do to make your body inhospitable to these things. And what's really interesting is if you want the blueprint for making your body inhospitable to parasites, bacteria, viruses, and fungus, you will find it in Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And here's the crux of what I wanted to get across. And I'm going to try to I hope that this will be exciting rather than boring to the people listening. And for those who are on audio, you're not going to see, I'm holding up right now. I have 5 pages of verses that I have written out where Moses is giving the quote unquote law to the people. And this is the sad thing, Lionel. We live in a church age now. You know, we're under the new covenant. Jesus. Right? We don't have to worry about the law. But what's really fascinating about the law that everybody wants to throw off this rule book, right? But here's the deal. If you really study the first 5 books of the Bible, the law, the Mosaic law, or the Torah, it's not so much a vast minutia of religious rites and traditions. It's actually a dietary and medical handbook. Why do you think this obscure little group of people have survived for thousands and thousands of years when so many other people groups have been wiped off the face of the planet? How did the people of God survive to the 21st century? It's because they follow the Torah, and it tells them so much of the Torah is anti-parasite laws. So I'm not going to go through all of these. I think I've got like 23 or 25 of them. I'm not going to go through all of them because I know that even though I think this is really exciting, most people aren't going to. But I'll make you a deal. If this is of interest to you, you can go on my website, VickiJoyAnderson.com, and you can send me an email, and I will email you this document.
Yes.
But let's just go through a few of them, Lionel.
Absolutely. I love this. I don't know how this is not boring to me. I mean, people should be worried about this stuff. People, I mean, it's cool to talk about, you know, there might be, you know, aliens over here and some fallen angels and three-headed giants over here. But how is no one not worried and fascinated about the very thing you are perceiving all this with, your body?
Yeah.
You know what
Absolutely.
I'm saying? So,
well, you know, most of us Americans are interested in health and fitness, and we have different reasons for being interested. Some of us want to be healthy. Some of us are in chronic pain, and we want relief. Some of us want to help a loved one who's sick. And, you know, Lionel, it's just the way it is. We all want to look hot, and we want to be attracted to the opposite sex. It's just the way we are, right? Yeah. Nobody wants to love handles and to be 30 pounds overweight and look like an 80-year-old when they're only 25, right? So we're motivated. You look at all the gyms and the money that we put into this. And so this should be of great interest to you, because the Bible is telling you how for free you can cure your diseases. So this should be of interest to you.
Yes.
And I'm just going to tell you, this is a question. I'm not telling you I believe this or I don't believe this. This is a question that I want you to write down and bring to prayer. And you and the Lord, you work this out with fear and trembling. Is there a link between the modern evangelical church's abandonment of the Torah and the tens of millions of Christians who are sick? Why do we have the disease of Egypt on us? And I'm not telling you yes or no. It's not a rhetorical question. I'm not trying to be clever. I'm saying, if you have an autoimmune disease and you're a Christian and you're genuine and you go to church and you love Jesus and you're longing for his coming and you're living a moral, pure life and you're obeying his commandments, but you do not have victory in this area, a disease of Egypt has fallen on you. Is it that the modern church has fallen out of covenant with Jesus? Doesn't mean he doesn't love us. Doesn't mean we're going to hell. But is there something to walking in covenant with him that actually has a direct effect on whether or not parasites can gestate in our body or not? That's the question at hand. And I find that just as exciting as the Nephilim and the alien talks. And believe me, I'm all up for Nephilim and alien talk, right?
Yes.
So let's just go through a few of these. I'm just going to go through a few of them. And like I said, you can email me if you want the whole exhaustive list. Okay. So they were told, this is Exodus 12:10. They were told to thoroughly cook the Passover lamb. Make your meat well done. Consume the lamb in the same night, and all of the leftovers are to be burned. Now, they didn't have refrigeration and stuff back then. Don't put that out in the desert overnight in a clay pot and eat it the next day, right?
Yep.
Obvious, right? So that's an anti-parasitic law.
Yeah, I really think like these things are always been common sense to. It should be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Don't eat fish that's 2 days old outside in the sun. I mean, come on, man.
Right. Deuteronomy 23:12-13. Don't poop where you eat, right? Dig your latrines outside of the camp. And so I'm going to have a little caveat here, Lionel.
What's going on?
About 252,000 soldiers in the Civil War died of dysentery, typhoid, pneumonia, measles, tuberculosis, and malaria.
Wow.
That's almost 50% of the entirety of the Civil War casualties. They say about 620,000 soldiers died in the Civil War. 252,000 of them died because of dysentery, which means no clean water, you're not digging latrines, and you're around dead bodies.
Wow.
All of which is addressed in the Torah.
That's insane.
If all they had done was read Genesis, 252,000 Civil War soldiers would have come home.
Dang, I didn't know that. Interesting.
Right? So don't poop in the camp. That's Deuteronomy 23:12-13.
Another common sense.
Yep. Leviticus 5:2. When you touch a dead thing, wash and be unclean till evening. In other words, you're self-quarantining. You touched a dead animal. You touched something with maggots on it, right? And when things die and they decompose, there's gases coming off of it, right? Oh man, there's so many of these I don't even know. Some of these are obvious. The sexual restrictions, blood emissions from the body. If a rat or a mouse or a rodent or any unclean thing, if you find it dead in one of your clay pots, in other words, in your dishes, you don't wash the dish. You bust the dish, obviously rats, mice. Okay, so this one I thought was really cool, Lionel, and let me see, because I want to get the verse for it too. There is a tradition, and this is all over in the Old Testament too. The traditional days of mourning when someone died in the Old Testament was 7 days. And what they called it in the Semitic cultures and the Jewish cultures, they call it the sitting Shiva. And that's not to be confused with Shiva in the Buddhist sense, like, the Shiva statue outside of CERN. The sitting Shiva is all of the relatives and the mourners gather in one house with the corpse for 7 days of mourning. They're self-quarantining. They don't go anywhere. They're all in that same place. They're not running around doing shopping and then coming back. But part of this tradition, and you see this all over in the Old Testament, when people mourned, they would put ashes on their head. And during this sitting Shiva, when they were quarantined with the dead body, many people would either put ashes on their head or they would shave their head. And so we just think that that's part of the mourning process. No.
That's
They shave their heads because funguses and parasites get in through our hair follicles. This is why when there's an outbreak of head lice, people have to shampoo or shave their heads.
Very interesting.
This is why they shaved all the heads of the people in the Holocaust, because it spread disease. They would get rid of the hair. Interesting thing about the ashes. Now, when we think about ashes on the head, we think about like the Catholic Church on Ash Wednesday, where they put ashes on the forehead, or you think they just take a pile of ashes and dump it on their head. No. Ashes were a main ingredient in homemade soap. And when you mixed ashes with hyssop and water, which is a recipe given in the Old Testament for purification, the Levites would wash in this bronze laver. Bronze has anti-parasitical, antifungal properties to it. It would put something in the water. And when you mix water, hyssop, and ashes, and you put it on your head, it's actually an ancient recipe for shampoo. It's an anti-lice shampoo. So they weren't just ceremoniously throwing ashes on their head because their loved one died. They were protecting themselves because they were in a house with a corpse.
Wow,
so,
very interesting.
oh man, I could go on and on and on. And some of these just get really exciting.
And then really earlier you said too about, I think you pretty much said, you're talking about the, when people have sex, you said something about blood emissions and stuff like that. That sounds like he's trying to, God's telling you how not to get STDs.
Yes.
I mean, that's wild to me. I didn't know about that one.
Yep. Obviously, bodily fluids, when you're exchanging bodily fluids, there's all sorts of diseases that come through that.
Yeah.
And it's not a matter of, a lot of people, we just assume that all of the laws that pertain to sexual conduct is just, God, the cosmic fun wrecker up in the sky saying sex is dirty, sex is bad. No. God invented it, right? He made all the body parts and all of the sensory parts of our body. He made it. He designed it. And he made the body and the brain and all the parts to hook together so that we would get a good feeling out of it. He's the one that came up with that, right? So he's not stingy with it. He's like, hey, enjoy it in the context that it was created for, but keep yourself clean, because you can get sick. You can get infections. You can get yeast infections. There's all sorts of things that can happen. Circumcision is all about keeping germs out from underneath that fold where they can get up there and hide and grow and reproduce. So these are anti-parasitic laws. And so I'm just encouraging people to, the next time you're reading through the Old Testament, read it through different lenses. Instead of looking at it like, here's this huge rule book, because God just isn't going to be happy unless we follow 630 rules, and he can't wait until we break one of them so he can wrap us over the knuckles with a ruler. No, he was going to preserve his people, because Jesus Christ was going to be born from a woman who came out of that genetic line. He preserved that people because our salvation came through the genetics of that people. And the way that they were kept alive in the desert was he taught them how to clean and wash and keep the camp and their bodies clean when they were around unclean water, when they were defecating, when there were emissions, when there was disease, when there was a corpse. He was teaching them basically how to not die.
Wow, that's a lot of things that I would 100% agree with you with. Just kind of how you said a lot of the foods that we're not supposed to eat are usually the ones that get you very sick or have a high chance of getting sick. I believe seashells, it's easily people always get poisoned from those things all the time. People die from eating those things sometimes. A lot of people are allergic to shellfish as well. And I believe that's in the Bible, right? You're not supposed to eat shellfish. Yep. I mean, I knew this a while ago, and I always thought, that doesn't sound like anything to me. At least it didn't sound like God was trying to be mean just for the fun of it. It sounded like to me he was just protecting you for things that would most likely get you sick. Just for example, the list of animals he's telling you not to eat. When you look at it through don't take either side. Just look at it for what it is. Look at it. Why would someone say this? Look up the facts behind it, and you'll see that all of it is just common sense. It truly is common sense. Don't eat this. You are what you eat. As I said earlier, if you eat the bottom feeders, what they eat, you are taking that nutrition in,
Yes.
And it's I mean, when you feed an animal a certain amount of I don't know exactly which one it is. Don't quote me on what animals, but there's certain farmers feed animals a certain fruit before they chop it up, because then the meat tastes like the fruit. You know what I mean? So I forgot what animals that do this. Maybe all of them do, but I know that there's certain animals that do that. You are what you eat. And God's telling you, don't eat a bunch of garbage, because you're going to turn out to have a bunch of garbage in you. And apparently, from what you said, a bunch of worms. Oh, man. That's wild.
Absolutely. Yeah, and to kind of bolster your last point from the opposite perspective, the reason why wild-caught salmon, like salmon from the ocean, the reason why it's healthy for us, and in fact, the reason why it's orange, is because of the sea life that it eats. And so it's not really even that the salmon is healthy, it's all of the food that the salmon have eaten that's benefiting us. And this is why the farm-raised salmon is less expensive and less healthy, because salmon raised on a farm is not eating ocean life. It's not eating life that are in living waters. And because of that, you're not going to get as much of a health boost. And then to boot, Lionel, I don't know if you knew this, farm-raised salmon aren't orange, because the reason salmon is orange is because of what they're eating in the ocean. So in order for it to not look disgusting and gray, they dye the farm-raised salmon orange. So you're getting dye.
No, I did not know that they were orange because of that, but I do know certain animals are everything from their skin color is something because of what they eat. But no, I didn't know salmon specifically, but I am aware that animals do have that effect. And even humans too, if you eat a lot of carrots, you say your skin turns orange or something like that. I've never tried it, but I've heard it many times. But you are what you eat, and that's why I try to eat very clean. I don't like, when I was a lot younger, I used to like, just trying different things. I was one of those guys that I'll try to eat a bug, and not anymore, man.
Yeah.
After everything that I know, it's just I'm good, man. The older I get, the less brave I get, to be honest with you.
Well, and this is a nice thing about getting old, is you don't have to prove yourself.
Absolutely not.
We get the luxury of just doing what we want.
Exactly.
Another cool thing I'll put in there is, if you go onto like dry fasting websites now, where professional dry fasters tell you what to do, like the do's and the don'ts. Dry Fasting Club is a good site. It's not run by a Christian, and there's nothing biblical or spiritual about it, but Dry Fasting Club, I've learned a lot on that website. But what's interesting is they'll tell you that if you're going to do a nice long 5-day dry fast, to get rid of parasites, to be healthy, you should maybe do 2 of them a year. Maybe 3, but 2 a year is what they suggest. Well, this is what's cool. In the Bible, on Passover, they were told to eat bitter herbs. That's part of the Passover meal. Well, some bitter herbs, like wormwood, for example, wormwood is part of parasite cleansing. Like if you get a parasite cleanse nowadays, like today in 2024, a lot of people are taking wormwood. because it's a bitter herb. It's part of that making your body inhospitable. And wormwood means bitter. And if you go into Revelation where the star named wormwood falls into the sea and it turns the waters bitter, that's because wormwood means bitter. And so once a year, they were commanded to eat these bitter herbs, which was a parasite cleanse. And then a second time during the year, there was one day that was mandatory for all of the Jewish people to fast. And it still is to this day. It's the Day of Atonement. It's also called Yom Kippur. This was the day that the high priest once a year would go into the Holy of Holies and make atonement for the sin of all the people. And that's where you hear all the stories about how they put a rope around his ankle and with a bell, and they'd pull him out dead if he, got out of line, that sort of thing. One day a year, the high priest would go into the Holy of Holies, to the Ark of the Covenant, and he would present before the Ark the afflictions of the people. This was the Day of Atonement. The whole entire camp would fast. It says in Scripture that they would afflict themselves, but if you go into the actual word, I think the Hebrew word is che, it infers that they were going without eating or drinking that day. That was the affliction, because then it said, instead of eating or drinking that day, you would present a food offering to God. In other words, instead of ingesting the food, you're offering it to God. You're giving it up. So one day a year, they would eat bitter herbs. And then a second time a year, they would do a dry fast for one day. These were the two biannual parasite cleanses that the camp was participating in together to keep the parasites and the disease out of the camp.
Wow. That's very beautiful how it's all. When I'm the kind of guy now, like I said, the older we get, the more we don't care what other people think. I'm at the point now where if it's not biblical, then it's not scientific fact to me. That's just how I am. And I don't care if people want to call me medieval or whatever, medieval thinking. I heard so many things. You won't believe the things that people write me and talk to me about and call me. But no, that's how I am now. And I believe if it's in the Bible, then it's true. And pretty much about 100%, not probably always, 100% of the time when you try to put it into a scientific perspective, like everybody needs who doesn't believe in it, it's always proven to some scientific, fact that it's not just for fun. Some people think that God just does things just to be mean for no reason. For example, just like people say how God is like, how do you know God has the perfect law, blah, 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 blah. And I'll just simply tell them, well, the 10 Commandments are common sense laws for everybody to follow. Even if you don't believe in God, do you think it's right to kill? I hope not. No. Do you think it's right for someone to steal? No. Do you want your husband cheating on you? No. These are common sense laws. Starting from your moral perspective, starting from the moral commandments from God and looking at it that way, and putting it into someone, in front of them in a situation like these are common sense laws. Thou shalt not kill, steal, lie, commit adultery, blah, blah, blah. And the same thing with the food and the diet and everything they say. The fasting is new to me. I don't think that's common. I don't think that can be common sense because the average person is going to go crazy and eat right away as soon as they're hungry. But I think that's something that would have to be taught by God, specifically taught, because I don't think any human would accidentally run into a 4-day fast unless they're forced.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's rough. But let me tell you, I won't go into detail because I went into detail in the fasting video on my website or on YouTube that I talked about at the beginning of the show. But those 5 days that I was thirsty, I started examining and meditating on all the scriptures that talk about thirst, and like hungering and thirsting for his righteousness, or Jesus thirsting on the cross. Jesus, of all of the things Jesus could have complained about on the cross, because I'm sure he was uncomfortable. It was hot. He had blood. He had open wounds on his back. He was getting splinters in his back. There's a million things he could have complained about. And the one that he wanted documented was that he was thirsty, because it was the preeminent, most painful part of everything he was going through. And then it dawned on me that his thirst was never quenched. He died never having his thirst quenched. He literally dehydrated himself to death. The living waters dehydrated to death. And so when it says that when it says that he took our suffering for us, we never will thirst again, because we're going to partake of living waters for eternity. And part of what he had to do so that we could partake in living water forever is he had to die of thirst. This is something that I never
That's
would have
wild.
I never would have thought of it unless I had been thirsty. Because as an American, I've never been thirsty. We get up and we immediately go to that coffee pot. We drink all day long. An American, like if we're doing a workout, yeah, we get thirsty. We drink our water. We don't know what it means to be thirsty. And if we don't know what it means to be thirsty, how can we say, like David, that as a deer pants by the streams of water, so my soul pants for you? How can we desire Jesus Christ like a dehydrated doe if we do not even know what it feels to be dehydrated? So those 5 days were excruciatingly painful and difficult from a physical perspective, but it illuminated for me what it meant and what it felt like. This is how your affections for Christ should feel. And do I long for him like this? Do I groan in agony? Do I think all day long of, I just got to be in his presence. I just got to have a taste of him. I just have to have a sip. No. So it really illuminated for me my lack of affections for Jesus Christ, the most precious, beautiful, satisfying thing in the universe, and I even crave it.
That's
so
deep.
More comes out of it. More comes out of a dry fast than getting rid of your autoimmune and looking nice in your jeans again, guys. If you're serious about hungering and thirsting after Jesus Christ and longing for his coming and wanting to be like him and to please him, I'll tell you, a dry fast will do that for you.
That's amazing. That's pretty deep how you brought up the whole thing when he was thirsty. I never put, well, how can you, like I said, how can you connect the two unless you experience something like that? That's pretty deep, and that kind of breaks my heart, man, because I've been thirsty before and it sucks. I can't imagine going more than, I don't think the longest ever not drinking water was maybe like, I don't know, a day and a half, because I had to do a surgery. I think, we had to do surgery, you can't drink water.
Oh, yeah.
And I was dying, and I cheated too. I had a couple sips. I mean, how's it gonna know?
I know, right?
And I was dying already. And this is just like 48 hours. You're supposed to drink water for 48 hours. They tell you not to drink water for 48 hours, and I could not do it. I was taking little sips here and there. Drink a bottle a day. What I don't even know how that even affects anything. But but the whole point is it's very hard, and it's just thirst sucks. It just sucks to be thirsty, even when like the times where I've been at work and the water machine doesn't broke down, and I just lose my mind. But that's crazy how you did it. Congratulations for doing it. I don't know how you did it, but you did it. You're a lot stronger than me, way stronger than me, because I would have broke. But now that you tell me, because I tried everything. I tried all they're always people are trying to get me to take probiotics, take this one has a billion what are they called? Microbacteria is what are they called? This one has 10 billion. And then, there's a new one now. It has 1 trillion in them. How do you know it has 1 trillion in them? It doesn't even matter at this point.
Counted.
Yeah. It's just 1 trillion in them. Okay. So either way, the amount of bacteria numbers never change anything. I've done the billion, I've done the trillion, the gazillions next, and I'm not going to do it. So I don't see the harm. And with the whole fasting thing, how can you work your way up to it and still get some benefits? For example, let's just say I want to start fasting, and let's say my normal meal a day is 3 meals a day, and I drink like a gallon of water a day. From Monday to Friday, I go down to 1 meal a day and like a bottle of water. And then week 2, I cut that down. Is there any benefit in that starting off, or you have to really kill these parasites by just starving yourself?
No, I mean, eventually, like I've done a bunch of long fasts since 2020 and the parasites didn't come out. Now I had other benefits from it, but it wasn't until I built myself up to that 5-day one that they were like, I'm out of here. I'm thirsty. Right. So you have to build up to it. If anyone has never done a dry fast and you just go into 5 days, you're going to be a hurting unit. You have to. And especially if you're sick, if you have autoimmune or you have parasites and you're doing all that on a sick immune system, it's going to be a lot harder.
Yeah, I was about to say you have to be at least a little bit healthy before you try this. So I would just advise anybody out there, don't jump into it unless you're ready for it, because you have to be a little healthy, because I can't imagine someone like who's already sickly. They're going to probably need to eat and drink some water. But I really do think it's me personally, I've been wanting to do it because even before I spoke to you today, I've already had it in my head. I already had the idea of parasites. I heard it for years. I've heard all the supernatural things. There's even like a supernatural lore behind all this, like how like it's related to demonic possession and stuff. So I already kind of knew about this parasite thing in the food, and it makes perfect sense. I mean, like I said, the more logical answer to it is that it's parasites messing you up rather than guessing and playing all these games with these stupid medicines that keep coming out.
Yeah.
The more logical explanation, just imagine this as you're a detective and you're solving a case, and the murder scene shows you one thing, and then the murderer just tells you a completely different story that is illogical to what you saw at the crime scene. This is how I feel about this. Everything that they're saying doesn't make any sense. It's illogical. The only logical explanation for any of this is there is an underlying issue that is common with everybody because everybody's having the same side effects. And a parasite sounds exactly like what a parasite does with all these side effects. It's the only logical explanation, in my opinion.
I love that analogy.
Because it's true. It's the only way it makes sense. There's no other evidence or explanation that makes any other sense.
That is the most perfect analogy. I'll probably steal that. Yeah, the difference between what trained, crime scene investigators see as evidence and then what the murderer is telling you happened. Yeah, that's awesome.
It's completely off. If it doesn't match the evidence, then it's not true. It's that simple. It's just that simple. Everything else is literally a guess. Like it's gluten, it's lactose, it's it's everything. It's the water. You need unfiltered water. You need filtered water with minerals. You can't this, that, and nothing ever happens because I've already been through it. I've had a semi-relief by just all I eat now. Personally, my diet, I just eat a lot of red meat. I eat a lot of chicken, and I eat a lot of fish, mostly salmon. Hopefully not the diet one. I have no idea. I'm going to check that out now when I buy it. And then I just eat a lot of white rice and I eat a lot of vegetables. I feel a lot better than when I used to. I used to eat a lot of fast food on my breaks. I should just eat a lot of fast food. And my idea behind it was, well, I'm going to work out anyways. I'm going to work it off. And which I do, but it's not that, I was naive. And, 500 calories is not just 500. 500 calories is not just 500 calories. If you have, 500 calories of a Snickers bar versus 500 calories of a piece of chicken. It's, I think today people are kind of trained to think that way, all these moms, they bite all this stupid, advice they get from, the morning show and what's that channel and the new stupid corny show with these dumb doctors saying this, the amount of protein in the Snickers bars, whatever. Cause I think I mentioned Snickers bars. I remember it being that, they're saying, the protein and, with the almonds in it is the same amount of nutrients that are in a piece of chicken. And no, it's not. This is all sugar. This is processed protein. It's not the same. Those 20 grams of protein is not the same as those 20 grams of protein, period. Right. You cannot live off that 20 grams of protein for the rest of your life. You can live off this one, though. It's very different.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for the people wanting a little bit of fringy payoff, I'll tell you, the reason why they are specifically targeting the bread and telling everybody you're gluten intolerant, don't eat any more bread.
Yeah.
This is what I think is going on. And it's similar to how they're telling us not to eat the beef anymore because we're desecrating the gods, right? All throughout the scripture, bread was a part of covenant making. That's why Jesus says that he's the bread of life, right? And when people broke bread together, it was a salt covenant. And salt was as a stand-in for blood. Because blood and salt are both things that we need to survive. When you broke bread with someone in ancient times, you were covenanting with them. And this is why we have communion meals and Passover, and why breaking of bread and our daily bread and Jesus being the bread of life. This is why bread, the staff of life. Bread is a theme because when we break bread with someone, we are entering into covenant with them. So when we are forbidden to eat bread, we are being left out of covenant meals with our fellowship with our other believers. And that might not seem like a big deal to you, but behind the veil in the spirit realm, it's a really big deal if we are being told that we are not allowed to participate in covenant fellowship with our fellow believers. We get together and we go out to eat, and we can't share in that meal because we can't eat anything on the table. And all of our fellow believers, they're sharing that salt covenant, and we're not a part of it. And I really think that's a reason why the bread, more than anything else, is what's being attacked. And if that line of argumentation doesn't mean anything to you, I urge you to study what covenants are, because it's all over in Scripture. Our whole salvation, Revelation 3:20, Jesus standing at the door and knocking, that's the threshold covenant. All of it is about covenant. And it is a big deal when we are no longer able to break bread. And this is why we're told in Scripture not to break bread with unbelievers, because
Amen.
you're covenanting with them.
Yep. I even think it's spiritual. I would even say it's spiritual. I'm going to use another analogy here. Let's see if it's good as the other one. Anybody who doesn't think, like you said, in my opinion, doesn't think that's not a big deal. Oh, so what? You can't break bread at the table and eat pieces of bread. Those are the same people, I say, when 95% of you would agree with. Did you feel left out when you were 21 and you're at dinner and everybody's doing cheers with wine or a beer and you couldn't? Did you feel left out and you felt hurt inside? If you feel hurt about that but can't understand this, it's the same thing. It's one spirit versus the other. You're getting butthurt spiritually in your little feelings because dad didn't let you join in on the cheers. But I'm just 20, Dad. Nope, you're not going to get to 21. All right, get your, your juice and cheers with everybody else. And you get hurt inside. It's the same thing. That's how I would feel. I'm at we're at a Passover celebration. Everybody's breaking bread. All right, everybody, we're going to break bread. Oh, I can't. My doctor said I can't eat, wheat, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to feel left out. And I'm probably going to ignore my doctor. I'm just going to join in just like I would. So,
yeah,
that's the way I see it.
Well, I'll tell you, when all of the Passover celebrations I would go to these celebrations, and there'd be some woman there who made homemade sourdough bread, and you could smell it, and it was piping hot, and everyone's oohing and ahhing over it. And I'm sitting here with my cracker. Yeah, I felt so that.
Good. That sounds so good. I love homemade bread. It's like wet and warm. It's good.
Yeah,
it's very good.
So,
with that being said, I agree with a lot of things that you said. Actually, everything that you said. I learned a lot from you today. And just a few closing thoughts. There's just, for the audience out there, I really do think you got to be careful with what diet you follow. And I would say social media plays a big role in it. I mean, I can't tell you how many people get their diet advice, their relationship advice, from TikTok. I mean, and, it's crazy. And there's so many different diets out there. There's these social media people. There's that guy, the Liver King, who tells you only eat raw liver. There are health benefits to it, but don't listen to these people. Do your own research. And one big thing is listen to your body. Listen, your body will literally tell you what you need to eat. Like when you're craving fruit, it's probably because you need that fruit, things like that. Just like when a woman is pregnant, they're craving certain nutrients that the baby needs to grow. They're craving, all the women crave the same thing. It's the same thing. Just listen to your body, but it goes deeper than that. Like Vicki was saying, if you have parasites, that could be completely different, because then the parasites are telling you what to think and what to eat, and you would never know unless you knew and did something to try to prove that, whether you had them or not. So I do think it gets a lot deeper than that. Like I said, this is what this podcast was about. Was not just about looking good in your jeans and looking good in with your shirt off or a bikini, whatever the case may be. This was about like a whole nother level of health. And, because I know a lot of people they look good on the outside. They have abs or buff, whatever, but their liver and their kidneys falling apart. They're about 1 day away from losing it all because their liver's about to fail from all the stuff they take. And so it's not always about the outward appearance. A lot of these people are not exactly healthy on the inside. So you just got to be careful. And, I would definitely look into the fasting thing, especially if you're a believer. I think this is something that a lot of people should look into and take it very serious, because your body is what's keeping you connected to this earth and everybody that you love. If you don't, and most people that are younger too, they don't understand, like, it's very important to start now to take care of yourself, because it's like about 40 nowadays when everything starts catching up to you. And I learned that the hard way, because I never took care of my body physically. Like, I never stretched. I never drank enough water. And everyone always told me, you lift too heavy, you box too much, you're going to tear a tendon. I'm 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, not listening through all those years. And I was in great shape. And once I hit about 32, the little pain that I had in my shoulder, that I ignored and kept overworking snapped. Librium snapped. And this was actually not too, I was actually like when I was 32, I think. Then about 2 years later, my bicep snapped. And here I am today, and I'm a lot more careful, and I'm a lot more, just more aware of with what I eat, and just trying to avoid problems before they even happen. Like me, I'm already taking medicine so I don't lose my hair. I just don't even want to get there. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to prepare myself before it even happens. So that's all I wanted to say from everything that I learned today. I learned a lot, and I love how you can connect all of it to the Bible, because, you know, it's not that we're bragging that God's always right, but he's always right. And you know, and we happen just to be on that team, you know, oh, well, you know, we're taking wins left and right. So yeah.
Amen. We got to learn as Christians to do hard things. Fasting is hard, but through fasting, we learn self-discipline. We learn self-sacrifice. We learn not quitting. We learn a whole bunch of the character qualities we're going to need if we are the generation that lives through hard times. If we aren't raptured out of this, if we do go through suffering, what if we're nowhere near the rapture and America just goes down because of judgment? We have to be prepared for hard times. And fasting is a really good, controlled way of practicing sacrifice, self-discipline, and doing hard things, and practicing not quitting. And when we practice not quitting, that builds spiritual muscles, it builds character, and it builds the things that we are going to need to survive if we end up living in hard times.
I agree. I do think there's something very big coming very soon. You know, I'm not trying to follow this trend, because people have been saying that for like the past 100 years in the tabloids and God's knows left and right. But now I can feel it, and a lot of other people can feel it. And it's not like it's a feeling anymore. You know, you just turn on the news, and it's just war everywhere. You know, everybody's getting blown up. Even in our country, we got, you know, people getting beheaded because, you know, we got an insurgence of Middle Eastern people with a certain kind of belief that don't like us. You know, so people are being targeted. Just the other, like a month and a half ago, that one soap actor got killed because his alternator got taken away. I mean, the guy's life was lost for like less than $100. You got it. So I really think that people are naive or just not taking it serious if they really think that keeping a healthy body is not important. There's a lot of people out there that say, and I disagree with them, you know, and where they say, you know, you don't need to be strong and, you know how to defend yourself and do this and that, because, you know, you're just going to pray and God's going to take it away. I do believe that happens in some cases, like miracle cases, but I mean, look around, and a lot of Christians are dying, and that it's happening because, you know, they got caught off guard, or they didn't know how to defend themselves, or they were just hoping if they prayed, everything was going to freeze and stop. You got to take a little bit of action to get it done. Like, you know what I mean? Does that make any sense, Vicki? Like these Christian people think, oh, I don't need to learn to defend myself, because if I just sit there and pray, nothing's going to happen to me ever. That's not how it works. And I would urge those people to read the Bible and look at the battles that the people of God had to fight. God's people had to fight. God didn't say, those are my enemies, those giants over there, so just get on your knees and pray, and I'm just going to get rid of them. No, you had to armor up. You got to put your gear on, strap the bow, whatever, the shield, the sword, pray to God, tell him to be with him, and prove to God that you're worthy of him having your back by putting faith that he's going to help you overcome this. It did not just happen because they got on their knees and prayed. It does not work that way, people. I'm sorry, but you got to put action into the prayer, because we are in a physical world. If you didn't have to do anything physical or take action, then there wouldn't be no point of the physical world. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, 10 of the 12 disciples died painful, horrible, frightening martyr deaths, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, if I was Matthew or Mark or Luke or Thaddeus or one of those dudes, and I got to heaven through being sifted like wheat, I went through a crucible, and 10, 30 million Americans just like get sucked up by the heavenly Hoover, without even breaking a nail. I'm going to be like, what?
Yeah.
Now,
exactly.
Granted, they'll get their reward.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm not saying everybody has to die a terrible martyr's death, or they're not going to, enjoy heaven. But what I'm telling you is, men and women way, way greater than me who Jesus loved dearly, got taken out in pain and suffering.
Exactly.
And it's just proof that there's something to our striving to enter into the kingdom of God. If you really look into the word striving, it means agony. It means difficulty. And we're told in the book of Hebrews to strive to enter his rest, which means it's not a cakewalk.
No, absolutely not. I've always saw the word striving as bad. Like I even use that word today. Like, I'll say it when I'm messing around, like, brother, you got to strive harder and hit those pads. I'll say, I always saw it, like, it's exactly what it is. You have to put in work. You have to put in work. Like, a lot of people will just try to see this as like, why would God think that way? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you're not going to be able to understand why, but it does make sense to put in work to get a reward. You can't just get, people really, I think it goes over people's head what eternal life is. A reward of today, all the liberal and, atheist scientists are trying to make humans live forever. Okay. And you're probably going to have to give your soul for it in the future. But God over here is offering it with a less payment, which is to be a good person and believe in God at the same time and do his word. And you get all that. Plus it's a better body and you get a better home, and on it goes.
Amen. 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 And not to go wildly off course, but since you brought up transhumanism, if you receive eternal life from anyone other than Jesus Christ, when you get thrown into the lake of fire, if you're immortal, you're not going to die. So if you want an immortal body, wait till after Judgment Day. Okay?
Yeah, no kidding, man. Yeah, people think it's a joke, man, but like it's just I can see it though. It's hard to wrap your head around. Like I tell myself, it's hard for me to wrap my head around. God requires us to be the best we can, and not do certain things and believe in Him and do His will, and with everything going on to be that person to put their foot down first and be at the front line and take all the consequences. Sometimes it's very hard to even convince other people that, when it's hard for me to even fathom, the things you have to do to be worthy of God. So it is a very hard task at hand.
It is. But we will be recompensed.
And it has to be hard.
We will be recompensed. And, this is the way I look at it. When I get to heaven, I don't want the crown. I want the Medal of Honor. I want the highest honor of having strived and lost my life for the only thing worth dying for, and that is salvation through Jesus Christ alone. And so, if he wants to hand out crowns, that's fine. But my eye is on the Purple Heart and the Medal of Honor. That's what I want pinned on me. That's what I want to be. I don't want to be a coward, Lionel. I don't want to get through all the suffering in my life, everything I've been through. Life is hard. You want to get to the finish line and then just be like that close to the Purple Heart, that close to the, like, why? Like, as life's tough, you may as well just like grit your teeth to the very end, man. Like, I don't know. I just
you have to I get what you're saying. I mean, what's the point of giving up? You're almost there. You might as well just go through it. You already been doing it. You're already born in it already.
That's right.
You're already born in it. You might as well finish that way, because it's the only way to get what you've been working for your whole life, I would say.
Yep.
And
there are way too many military metaphors in Scripture for me to not think that Judgment Day, that Bema Seat, those crowns, those are like military, those are like war medals. We're getting war medals, and I don't want to be walking around in heaven with my little Boy Scout sash with nothing pinned on it.
Gonna be all
I want to have so many Purple Hearts on there that I fall under the weight of it right at Jesus's knees.
That sounds,
because those Purple Hearts are a testimony to what he brought me through and what he did for my joy, for my eternal joy, and for his glory. And dude, I'm all about it. I'm all about it. If he's got nothing for me but Purple Hearts, I'll take them.
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be sitting at the table with the big dogs, Michael the Angel and the other guys, you know. I'm trying to get, you know, sit with those guys, you know, put in that work. But
That's right.
It's been a wonderful podcast. I loved it. I hope you did.
I did. Don't wait so long to invite me back.
No, absolutely not. But you're very busy. You know, as people know, she's too famous for some of us now.
Oh, stop it. Don't spread bad rumors.
Oh, no, I'm just messing with you. You know, she's the best, man. You guys, she's the best. Yes, a lot of personal things that we spoke about. She's a good person. One of the best. So thank you again, Vicki. Really quick, just go ahead and plug us in with all your social media stuff, where to buy your book and support you and all that good stuff.
Sure, absolutely. VickiJoyAnderson.com is the website. Vicki Joy Author is Instagram. You can find me on YouTube, Vicki Joy Anderson. And the book, They Only Come Out at Night, Exposing the Dark Weapon of Sleep Paralysis, is available on lamarzulli.net.
Thank you very much, Vicki, for that. And thank you, everybody, for listening. This is The Sabbath at Midnight. My name is Lionel Tavares. I'm the host. And again, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you learned something new. Hopefully it was something, you know, new to learn, because a lot, like we said, it sounds boring, but you know, if you heard the podcast, you listen to it and you're coming to this part of the episode, I hope you have a different opinion from the title and how it all started, because we started off regular and we got in deep. It went deep. So just give it about 15 minutes and we started getting pretty crazy with it. But thank you guys again. God bless you all. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, follow us on all our social media websites. All the links are in the bio. And also, please, if you want to help us, support us on the Buzzsprout link, become a member, $7 a month. And also, what am I forgetting? Oh, yeah, if you have a story to tell, we are still looking for people with your personal experiences with the supernatural realm, or you had some kind of awakening with Christ, you know, anything like that, you know, anything. Maybe you had a crazy childhood and you did some jail time. I always like those stories too, man. Those stories are always pretty insane. But with that being said, God bless and good night, Vicki. Just stay on for a little bit while I play this song for like 30 seconds on the outro.
All right.